Information and Communication Technology, or ICT, helps every people in different ways. ICT contributes to makes everyone's work to be easier. It contributes in communication and in developing goods and services. Also, ICT has a great contribution in education. So today, we will be learning about ICTs and teacher education, global context, and framework, together with the traditional views and learning process, changes in views and learning process, and a shift from teaching to learning, and theories supporting the new view of the learning process. In the teaching and learning process, teachers must know the use of technology that we will be used in teaching, since they are the one that will introduce it to the learners. Also, pre-service teachers must be well molded and prepared in terms of the technologies or the different technologies that they will be used, for they are to take in charge of it when they will be in service. So, it is important to know the use, the functions, and the importance of every technology that may be used in teaching and in learning process. So, as noted in the UNESCO World Education Report, Teachers and Teaching in the Changing World, UNESCO 1998, the young generation is entering a world that is changing in all spheres: scientific and technological, political, economic, and social and cultural. The emergence of this knowledge-based society is changing the global economy and the status of education. So, changes is the only constant thing in the world. As time goes by, everything changes. The learnings of each generation became bigger and bigger as they encounter and develop new experiences. Then the new information will be accommodated to add their existing one. Hence, the global competition will be entering the door. Let us now proceed to the traditional views and learning process, changes in views in the learning process, a shift from teaching to learning, and theory supporting the new view of the learning process. So first, we have to focus on the traditional views and learning process. So it is where the teacher always speaks in front, is spoon-feeding the information towards the learners, and the learners will just listen and waiting for the instruction of the teacher. As shown in the picture, it is the teacher who gives all the information towards the series of students. The teacher is the expert and the dispenser of the knowledge, while the students are just sitting and listening the information that is coming from the teacher. So the traditional education paradigm is often characterized by the following views of learning. First, learning is hard. According to this view, if the students are having fun or enjoying what they're doing in the learning activity, they probably are not learning. So, learning is really a hard process. Many believe that. But in this view, they believe that students can only learn when they felt difficulty or hardships or confused about the activity. If the students are having fun, for them, there is no learning that happened and gaining of new information from that given activity is, and there is no, for them, there is no learning and gaining of information from that activity, meaning the activity is not effective. Next, learning is based on the deficit model of the students. The system strives to identify deficiencies and weaknesses of the students. Based on noted deficiencies, students are tracked, categorized, and remediated or failed. The deficit model of the student will be the basis to which group the students belongs. Then, The teacher will give a makeup or a tutorial or discussion about their deficiency. Again, it is the teacher who will give the information, and there is no activity or student's activity involved. Learning is a process of information transfer and reception. Much of our present learning enterprise remains information-oriented, emphasizing students reproducing knowledge rather than producing their own knowledge. It is also remains teacher-centered. The prevalence of this view is supported by observation that teachers continue to rely on old standbys such as lectures, textbook readings, and fill-in-the-worksheets practices that reduce students to passive recipients of information and fail to develop their thinking skills. So, it is the teacher who transfer the knowledge, and students will just restore and gather all the given information. The students will not given a chance to think critically. The students will serve as the repeater of the transferred knowledge from the teachers. The prevalence of this view is supported by observations that teachers continue to rely on old standbys such as lectures, textbooks, readings, and fill-in-the-worksheets practices that reduces students to passive recipients of information and fail to develop their thinking skills. Learning is an individual or solitary process. In the study of schools in the United States, the National Assessment of Educational Progress noted that most students spend long hours working alone at their desk completing worksheets or repetitive tasks. A London Times survey of English school children indicated that students almost anonymously rejected this daily ordeal of dull and ritualistically solitary classroom activity and called for a broader and more exciting curriculum. Above all, they wanted more and work allowing them to think for themselves. This review that students working alone can learn better than the learning or working with his or her colleagues. That implies that a group or the need of someone is not essential in the learning process of the children. Now, let's proceed to the views in the learning process. In contrast to the traditional teaching paradigm, a new paradigm of teaching learning process is emerging based on the 3 decades of research in human learning that encompasses the following views of the human learning process. First, learning is a natural process. The natural state of the brain is to learn. However, not everyone learns in the same way. There are different learning, perceptual, and personality styles that must be considered in the design of learning experiences for the individual student. So, every learner is unique. We have different styles in learning, so activities must not just be focused on one kind of the learning. It should be something that will motivate all students to learn. Also, environment must be considered in the process. For students learn best when they are in the comfortable place. So also, the activities given must be flexible to cater different kind of learning. Next, learning is a social process. As Vygotsky, 1978, noted long ago, students learn best in collaboration with peers, teachers, parents, and others when they are actively engaged in a meaningful, interesting task. ICT provide opportunities for teachers and students to collaborate with others across the country and across the globe. Many psychologists prove that children learn best when they are with peers or collaboration with a group. So, how can this collaboration become helpful? So, while students can ask questions to the group, they can also observe techniques that may be used to them in the next activity. Also, their peers can give new information that they are not familiar yet. So, as time goes by, they can add something to the information until it will improve. Learning is an active and not passive process. In most fields, people are faced with the challenging of producing knowledge rather than reproducing knowledge. To allow students to move toward competence, they must be actively engaged in the learning process. In activities such as solving real problems, producing original writings, completing scientific research projects rather than simply studying about science, dialoguing with others on important issues, providing artistic and musical performance, and constructing physical objects. Or simply, a child learns when they are to experience the information that they have received. For example, in English class, students are taught about the writing reflection paper, so the assessment must allow the students to write their own reflection paper from something, so they can actively internalize what they have get. Learning may either be linear or nonlinear. The knowledge structures are stored in semantic memory as a schema or cognitive maps. The students learn by augmenting, combining, and rearranging a collection of cognitive maps, many of which overlap or are interconnected through a complex network of associations. There are many ways that students may acquire and process information and assimilate into their existing knowledge structures. Much of what now happens in school appears based on the notion that the minds work like a serial processor that designed to process only one piece of information at a time in a sequential order. But the mind is a wonderful parallel processor that may attend and to process many different types of information simultaneously. Mind can combine new knowledge. It depends on how does the student cater different information. But of course, there are some students who learns in a linear process maybe can cater many information. Learning is integrative and contextualized. Fabram's holistic brain theory suggests that the information presented globally is more easily assimilated than information presented only in the sequence of information elements. It is also easier for students to see relations and to make connections. Jacob Bronowski, in Science and Human Values, made the point that discovering the connection between what had seemed two isolated facts of existence is creative act, whether the field of art or science. He calls it an act of unifying. This is not something that can be done for the learners. These connections cannot be made by a learner's mind. Information can be given. The information can even be stated, but even the information is repeated, it cannot be assumed it is really known. The teachers and the learners must discover it for themselves. That is not to say that learners must discover everything unaided. The teacher's role is to help them in several ways to make connections, to integrate knowledge. Learning is based on the strength and model of students' abilities, interest, and culture. Based on the work of Howard Gardner and others, schools are beginning to consider the specific strength and interest that students bring the learning environment, and are designing learning activities that build on students' strengths rather than focusing only upon remediating weakness. So, when the activity is given according to the intelligence of the students, it will be able to capture their interest. They will be enjoying answering it, and when the learner is enjoying the activity, he learns better from it. The information that will be given to the learners must be in line with their existing knowledge so that they can accommodate the new information. Next, learning is assessed through task completions, product, and real problem solving of both individual and group efforts. Rather than simply evaluating students through paper and pencil tests, assessments are made using portfolios of actual performance and work in both collaborative and individual learning process. So this review believes that the assessment of learning or checking the product of the products or performance based must be used. A traditional paper and pencil test only for the assessment is only for assessing the knowledge level according to the Bloom's taxonomy. So higher level according to the Bloom's taxonomy. So higher levels must be assessed whether it has been achieved or not. Now, let's proceed to a shift from teaching to learning. A shift from teacher-centered instruction to learner-centered instruction is needed to enable students to acquire the 21st century knowledge and skills. So students will have to learn to navigate through a large amount of information to analyze and make decisions, and to master new knowledge domains in an increasingly technological society. Learners can learn best when they are able to hands-on with the technology. Letting the students touch, use, and experience the new technology will be a great tool in order for them to really understand and familiar the parts, the importance, and the use of that certain technology or the certain thing. Unlike when the teacher will just talk and introduce the certain thing on the learners, and the learners will just going to imagine and memorize its parts rather than its function its parts and function. Then after days they will forget it. So learners can acquire the 21st century knowledge and skills when they have to use their senses and learning it. Now, I will be presenting different tables. The following tables identifies the shift that will take place in changing from a focus on teaching to a focus on learning. So during classroom activity, in teacher-centered, it is didactic. It is always the teacher who teach, while the learner-centered is interactive. Both learners and the teacher can talk. In teacher-centered, the teacher is the dispenser of the knowledge, while in learner-centered, there is collaboration. So there are different aspects that the teacher-centered and learner-centered being compared, and the result always shows that the learner-centered environment is interactive, and it enables the learner to become hands-on or to experience the technology by themselves. So on this second table, Next, I will be presenting different tables. The following tables identifies the shift that will take place in changing from a focus on teaching to a focus on learning. So, the first table is the teacher-centered and learning-centered learning environment. So, during the classroom activity, in teacher-centered, it is didactic, while in learning-centered, it is interactive. It is interactive. Both teachers and students can talk. In teacher-centered, it is the teacher who is the dispenser of the knowledge, while the learner-centered, there is collaboration. There are different aspects that the teacher and learning-centered being compared, and the result always shows that the learner-centered environment is interactive, and it enables the learners to become hands-on or to and it led them to experience the technologies by themselves. So, the second table is all about the changes in student and teachers' role in the learner-centered environments. So, as shown in table 1.2, adapted from Newby et al. 2000, the role of the teacher will change from knowledge transmitter to that of learning facilitator, knowledge guide, knowledge navigator, and co-learner with a student. The new rule does not diminish the importance of the teacher but requires new knowledge and skills. So students will have greater responsibility for their own learning in this environment as they seek, find, synthesize, and share their knowledge with others. ICT provides powerful tools to support the shift of the student-centered learning and the new roles of the teachers and students. So now let's shift to the last part, which is the theories supporting the new view. The theory supporting the new view of the learning process. So there are theories that support the new view of the learning process, namely the sociocultural theory based on the Vygotsky's intersubjectiveness and zone of proximal development, constructivism theory, self-regulated learning, situated cognition, cognitive apprenticeship, problem-based learning, cognition and technology group at Vanderbilt, cognitive flexibility theory, and then distributed cognition by Solomon 1993. So each of these theories is based on the same underlying assumptions that learners are active agents purposefully seeking and constructing knowledge within a meaningful context. So the table shows the learner-centered environment in which the students interact with other students, their peers, and their teachers. So the learner-centered environment provides a better way of developing the knowledge of the learners, and it allows learners to learn real-life situations and solve real-life problems. So also, with the help of ICT, the learner-centered environment became well settled. So ICT provides additional resources through research and can make communication faster and simple. Also, it helps the students in presenting or displaying their knowledge or what they have learned. So the theory that support the new learning process is the Vygotsky's social cultural theory. So Vygotsky's social cultural theory of humans learning describes learning as a social process and the origination of human intelligence in society or culture. So the major theme of Vygotsky's theoretical framework is that social interaction plays a fundamental role in developing of cognition. He believed that everything is learned on two levels. So the first level is through interaction with others and then integrated into the individual mental structure. So, or simply what a learner has seen or learned from other people, he or she will apply it to his or herself. Then second is the idea that the potential for cognitive development is limited to zone proximal development or ZPD. So this zone is the area of exploration for which the student is cognitively prepared but requires help and social interaction to fully develop. So the learner still needs someone to develop his or her learning, someone to guide him or her, and someone that will become his example. So the implication of Vygotsky theory are that Learners should be provided with socially rich environments in which to explore knowledge domains with their fellow students, teachers, and out, um, outside experts. So ICTs can be used to support the learning environment by providing tools for discourse, discussion, collaborative writing, and problem solving, and by providing online support systems to scaffold students' evolving understanding and cognitive growth. Next is John Piaget. He observed that learning occurs through adaptation to interactions with the environment. This equilibrium or mental conflict which demands resolutions give rise to assimilation of new experience which is added to the existing knowledge of the learners, or to accommodations which is modification of existing understanding to provide for the new experience. So the learner has an active role in constructing his or her own knowledge in both of these ideas. He observed that as children assimilated new information into their existing mental structures, their ideas gained complexity and power, and their understanding of the world grew in riches and depth. Next is Jerome Bronner. Bronner emphasized that learning is an active process in which learners construct new ideas or concepts based upon their prior knowledge and experience. There are three principles to guide the development of instruction according to him. So first, instructions must be concerned with the experiences and contexts that make the students willing and able to learn or readiness. Then instructions must be structured so that the students can easily grasp it, and instruction should be designed to facilitate extrapolation and or fill in the gaps, so going beyond the information given. Then next, theory is the problem-based learning. The goal of the problem-based learning, or PBL, are to develop high-order thinking skills by providing students with authentic and complex problems and cases. This approach to learning provides a more authentic context for learning and engaging students into authentic tasks. So, anchored instruction. Anchored instruction is an approach to designing instruction that is anchored in a real-world context, problems, or situations. So, technology has been used to help create real-world contexts and situations through the use of videos. So the video segment provides a context for the subsequent learning and instruction. So an example for this is presenting a real-life problems through a video presentation using the projector. Yeah. Then next is the distributed cognition. So distributed cognition emphasizes that cognitive growth is fostered through interaction with others and involves dialogue and discourse, making private knowledge public and developing shared understandings. Tools for the online collaborations have been designed to support collaborative knowledge instructions and sharing the classroom. The next is the cognitive flexibility theory. This theory asserts that people acquire knowledge in ill-structured domains by constructing multiple presentations and linkages among the knowledge units. It also notes that learners revisit the same concepts and principles in a variety of contexts. This theory is useful in the understanding how knowledge is transferred in ill-structured knowledge domains. Then next is the cognitive apprenticeship. Cognitive apprenticeship is a term for the instructional process in which teachers or more experienced or knowledgeable peers provides scaffolds to support learners' cognitive growth and development. Cognitive apprenticeship permits students to learn through their interactions, contract knowledge, and share knowledge-building experiences with the other member of the learning community. So ICTs provide powerful new tools to support cognitive apprenticeships, enabling groups to share online workspaces to collaboratively develop artifacts and intellectual products. So they also make possible apprenticeships in which an expert is able to work with or mentor the students who may be thousands of miles of distance. Then last is the situated learning. So situated learning emphasizes the use of apprenticeship, coaching, collaboration, authentic context, tasks, activities, and cognitive tools. So it occurs when the students work in authentic tasks that take place in real-world settings. So learning is a function of the activity, context, and culture in which it occurs, which contrasts with most classroom learning, which is abstract and out of the context. Situated cognition theory emphasizes providing an authentic context for the learners and encouraging social interaction and collaboration in the learning environment. Through collaborative problem solving, dialogue, and discussion, students are able to develop deeper levels of understanding of a problem or knowledge domain. So, that will be all. Thank you for viewing my site and for viewing the video. God bless.